Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In case you're new here, my name's Mary, and here on YouTube I like to share some of the projects I have going on around here with you all. Today I'll be working on a little cabinet that I've had around here for years. It just needs a new look, and I thought I'd share the process with you, so join me and enjoy. So the cabinet I'm going to be working on is down here in my soap kitchen, and I know the lighting's not really good, but I thought I'd show you kind of where it's been for the past few years. And it used to sit against this wall, and as you can see I have the wardrobe that used to be in the bedroom sitting there now, and I plan to move some of my soap supplies in here. But first I have to clear this one out so that I can move it, and then I'll probably take it upstairs, maybe even on the porch to paint it. And I plan to add a header or something on the top of it, just a little space for me to maybe add some character, like a molding or something. I'm not at this point quite sure what I'll do with it, but I do know I want to, redo it and possibly use it in the living room upstairs. I'll give you a brief history of this cabinet and kind of the reason I want to hang on to it and use it somewhere. So when we moved here, this was a number of years ago. We were still, Amish at the time, so I don't have any video footage of this, but one day I wanted a jelly cupboard for my dining area. I wanted one for the space, kind of in the corner there where I do have a cabinet now. And I didn't have any means to, go somewhere like a thrift store or, I didn't really have money to buy one. So I started looking around here for something I could either make or kind of transform into a jelly cupboard. And I ended up finding what we used to call our fishing rod cabinet. I used to be in the shop, like our old brown shop, and my dad had actually built it years ago, and it didn't have a door or a frame or anything. It was basically just some pieces of plywood with shelves and then a long space along the one side where we always stored our fishing rods, and then on the shelves we'd have our tackle boxes and other fishing supplies. And I began eyeing this cabinet and I thought surely I could do something with it. I kind of like the shape of it, like the size. So I ended up putting a frame on it, like a wooden frame kind of along the front, and then attaching a door to that. I added the bead board on the door and then also on the sides, just giving it some more character. I then painted it a dark brown color. It was back in the day when everything was kind of primitive country in our home. For a number of years I had aqua in our kitchen, so it was that color. And then eventually I painted it light blue. I think it was in our entryway for a bit. And then when I started my Etsy shop in the back end of our living room, I used it there for storage. And then of course from there it moved down to the basement where I had some soap supplies stored in it. So I measured my cabinet. It's 22 inches wide by 12 inches deep. I don't want to get really fancy with this header. I just want something maybe like a slanted top, almost looking like a little house roof, if that makes sense. Found a piece of wood here. I'm just trying to figure out my angles. I knew it would probably look best to have pieces of wood along the side too, not just the front. Here I'm arranging the pieces on the top, making sure everything looks okay before I put it together. I feel like it still needs to look a little more chunky maybe. Something isn't quite looking right. So I held this piece of wood up to the seam, and I think that's going to do the trick, is just kind of sealing that off. I'm going to go ahead and remove the hardware. It's always easier to paint, you know, without it. Plus, I think I'm going to use something else, my little black latch, which I thought my camera was recording and it wasn't, but I removed that and it's broken. I always like to see those little latches, but I think I might have something else on hand that might even come from an old piece of furniture that might work. It's always worth it to hang on to those things in case you want to use them for a piece like this. And maybe I could find some rusty hinges that I could replace with these black ones. The look I want for this cabinet is old, vintage. I'll probably end up painting it white and then applying a glaze to kind of darken it, making it look old. I'll go ahead and putty any holes that were made by hinges or latches. That way I'm free to kind of use anything else and don't have to worry about covering them up. So I'll be honest here, there's a slight chance you guys may be watching a live flop of mine here with this piece of furniture. I'm not 100% convinced with this header. I think it kind of might look like a narrow house. I keep thinking once I add my little character pieces and glaze it and distress it, it might look different, but we'll see. And John didn't help the matters any when he walked by. He said something about my barn roof that I made for my cabinet. He was, of course, just teasing me, but really it kind of affirmed my worries about it. But it's fine. It's actually a good thing that the header is separate, because I can always just not put it on or maybe make something else. Here I'm giving the piece a quick second coat. I knew I wanted some sort of a little design or character piece to be in my header, like a molding of some sort. And here I have some molds that Patterson Art Studio had sent me. Make sure to check them out if you're into this type of thing. They have tons of different products, you know, including, of course, these molds and decor transfers, plus many others. I had done something similar with the green cabinet on our porch, and I really like that. It's just amazing what that does, just adding a little bit of character. At this point, I'm not quite sure which design I'm going to use, so I'm going to go ahead and make a few of them, kind of hold them up against my header then once they're dry and see which one I want to go with. Here I'm just using a modeling clay material to make them. There's different kinds of materials that you can use, and this is just an easy air dry type of modeling clay. You don't have to bake it or anything. So I dug out some really old paint and I found this Simply Glaze, it's called. And I have a little bit of this left. It's like a clear, I think it dries clear. I'm going to use this and add a little bit of brown paint, dark brown paint, and create my own dark glaze. At times already I've used just plain paint as a glaze. You can totally do that too, but adding an actual, you know, glaze like this gives you a little more time to then, you know, wipe it off, because of course I want to apply it and then wipe it off. And it just seems it's easier if you have it kind of more in a glaze form than just your paint. But again, if you don't have glaze on hand, paint will work too. So just a few tips here when applying glaze like this, which I haven't done it in a while. I'm thinking some of you guys could probably give me some tips, but it's actually a lot of fun, especially if you have grooves like this, whereas this cabinet, you know, is made with like a shallow beadboard. The grooves aren't deep, but just deep enough to hold some of the glaze, and it really brings out character. I'm loving how it looks. I always have a wet cloth nearby, and I try to work quickly so it doesn't, you know, dry too quick for me. Which again, with using an actual glaze, it really helps that it doesn't. I rinse my rag every now and then, and I just work by sections. I mean, there's really no certain way to do it. I guess everyone probably has their own method of doing this, but This kind of seems to work. You really have to, you know, blend it in, and you want to kind of work in the same direction, like you don't want to swirl it too much. I guess for me, I think it looks better if the glaze marks are, you know, straight. So my clay design is in numerous pieces here. It was kind of hard to get it out of the mold without it coming apart. And then of course once it was dried, I dropped the one section, so that broke in a couple pieces. So I did spend a little more time gluing it onto my header, but I still think it looks okay. So I'm doing something just a bit different for the backing of this cabinet. I couldn't find what I really wanted, which was a vintage looking fish wallpaper. Being, you know, this cabinet used to be a fishing supply cabinet, I thought it would be so fitting to incorporate that into the cabinet just kind of for memory's sake. And the only wallpaper I could find was this one, and I think it's really cute. Not quite sure that it's completely fitting to the look that I want for the cabinet. And I thought, you know what, it's inside the cabinet, you're not going to see it on the outside, and it's probably just me that kind of knows the meaning of this. And I just like the idea that every time I'd open it, I'd be reminded that, you know, this cabinet was actually made by my dad, and we used to have, you know, fishing supplies in here. And it's something where I can always switch it out should I ever find some actual vintage looking fish wallpaper. So here I'm rummaging through my little container of old hardware and pulls and knobs and such. See if I can find anything that will fit to this cabinet. I did find a few pieces that I like. Not quite sure will I be able to use them or not. We'll see. It was kind of hard filming that cabinet, being that we have new living room furniture finally, and I didn't want to show you guys in this video. I have a separate video coming with that. But yes, we finally did replace our old sofa. I think it's probably around, I don't know, 12 to 13 years old. We had some springs showing through. We had dips in it. Kind of kept adding foam underneath the cushions where we sat. It just was kind of hard for some reason for me to replace that sofa. I know it was an ugly old thing, but I still always kind of like the look of it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had fun redoing that little cabinet. I think it really fits nicely into that corner. In case you missed it last week, I do have a new product line on my website. Make sure to check that out. The link is down below in the description box. You may have noticed that little pillow that was in the cabinet. That's something from that line. And then also the shirt that I'm wearing. What I did was create different designs with the month flowers, like every month has a flower and then a word to go with it. And then I also found a scripture that kind of matched that. I think they turned out pretty neat. So make sure to check that out if you're all needing a gift for someone maybe, or just something for yourself. I hope you guys are enjoying the summer season that we're in. I can't believe we're in the last part of July already. I mean, where has the time gone? I just want to hit that pause button. You know, I love summertime. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.